Welcome to Exponential Next Church Expressions Next series. These are 7 conversations where we'll be exploring the most common expressions of church in the U.S. So my name is Bill Kokenauer. I'm the Director of Deployment for Exponential, and I also get to work with Carrie Williams, who's the Executive Director of Exponential Next, and she is my co-host today. Welcome, Carrie.
Thanks.
And we also want to welcome our guests, Carl Johnson and Scott Woller, and we look forward to what they have to share with us today.
Yeah,
Good
thank
to
you.
be here.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us for this series. On today's episode, we are discussing what entrepreneurial church planting is. And that may sound very foreign to some of you listening in, tuning into this conversation, but it is something that we absolutely think all of us need to pay attention to. And so today's guests, Carl and Scott, are practitioners in this space as well as thought leaders, and we are absolutely thrilled to have them with us. Guys, can you tell us a little bit about yourselves? We'll start with Carl.
Yeah. My name is Carl Johnson. I'm in my 40s. I have 3 kids, Kenya, Naomi, and Keegan. I'm married to a wonderful legislative aide for our city. And we have a raucous, clingy dog named Thor. And we run a church network called Faith City Church Network in the St. Paul area of the Twin Cities.
Scott?
Yeah, I'm Scott Woller. A little bit about myself. I have 2 daughters that are now both out of college, and so it's a new era in my life. And my wife and I have been married. Next in 2026 is going to be our 20, 30, 50 year, meaning 20 years since we planted Corner Church, 30 years of marriage, and I guess 50 years old. And so,
Wow.
Carl, I'm leaving the yeah. But my wife and I we planted Corner Church almost 20 years ago, and in it we have 5 corner coffees, which have church on Sundays, and from that, these we're trying to do it again and again.
I love it. Well, Bill and I absolutely love what you guys do and have learned so much from both of you along the way and from your teams. And so we just appreciate you. When people are tuning into this and they hear the word entrepreneurial church planting, I assume that there's a bunch of things that go through folks' minds as far as what does that mean? What does that look like? Is it church? Are they churches that make money, or is it church for money, or all kinds of things associated with those terms? And so I just thought we'd kick off by you guys putting it into your own words of what entrepreneurial church plants are. What's the purpose behind them? What are they? Just kind of give us you know, the definition and your expression in your own terms. Yeah. So Scott, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I like the smashing of a bunch of worlds together. A huge part of who we are is our aim to be valued in community. And I think a great measure of actually being valuable in your community is that people pay for what you're offering. It's by definition that is value. And so when you think about there's that aspect of it, but a big part of it too is that it gives opportunity for us to do church efficiently, to make church sustainable, and maybe what traditional or legacy models might find unsustainable outside of external contribution. It also, in the midst of it too, is it allows us to move from being what do we do to gather people in our community to being the center of the gathering spot of our communities. And in the midst of it all is that there isn't like I love I'm into Jesus and Scripture and ministry, but there isn't like the business end of it and then the ministry end of it. Is that it is all entwined as one. We get to do life and ministry, represent Christ well, whether it's through an interaction with the sale of a latte or at a Sunday gathering. So that's a couple of the worlds smashed together. I don't know if that's really a definition, but it's part of the mess.
I like it.
Good.
Carl?
Yeah. Yeah. I think one of the things I don't think it is, and I probably tell people more than it, it's not business, it's mission.
Come on.
Yeah, I think that's also one of the things that people get confused with it. I think it's a prism. So when you shine your light on what an entrepreneur is doing, I think it's like an opportunity seeker, an innovator, a risk taker, a leader. I think it's a problem solver, a visionary, and somebody that's adaptable. You gotta like do all these things at one
Mm.
time. It's kind of like Second Peter 1, which it's a quality of leaders are a leader who wants to start something, and it doesn't have to necessarily be a business.
Mm.
Yeah, I'd love, thinking of starting, I'd love for you guys to share a bit of your kind of your journey with us, especially helping us understand kind of what led you to start to this type of expression of the church, especially when you started it, it was more rare than it is today. And so you had to feel a little bit like you were the only one in the world that was doing this. And so, yeah, I'd love to hear a little bit. Maybe Carl, just go ahead and if you would kind of pick up with sort of the origin story for you.
Yeah. So it started parachuting. And Bill, this is why this conversation is so interesting for me and Scott to be in this conversation. Scott actually was my Minnesota coach when I started church planting. And so I don't know if you all knew that. He knew that, but y'all didn't do that. So we spent quite a
Yeah.
few years together.
Yeah, it's cool. You guys, for those that don't know, these guys are in the same city.
Mhm.
We
Yeah,
They could
yeah,
have even been right together today. So, yeah, go
yeah,
ahead, Carl.
yeah. So our origin story didn't start with a business. It started starting something that would be innovative and different and for the city. And we started what we would call like dinner church. And we wanted to be able to make disciples and be able to have a lot of dinner churches across the city. So it was something that was going to multiply faith. And so it wasn't necessarily where we're going to say, hey, we're going to start a grocery store. We knew our mission was to end food insecurity, and it was going to be in a neighborhood that was wrecked by food insecurity. And so our very first start was like, how are we going to feed people? Like that was number one. It wasn't about like opening up a grocery store or having a coffee shop or making money. We're like, we're going to be missionaries for the rest of our life. We're going to always be raising funds, and we're going to have to tell stories of like how we reach people on a daily basis with food and how important that is. And so that was always the beginning and the origin stories. And I think we started our first community meal in 2017, and we've been feeding people ever since then. And it morphed or evolved, or God actually said, hey, this needs to realign in this manner. And so, and here we are today with a model that makes a lot of sense. We call it every church a grocery store. And so, as we're multiplying across boundaries, that's the origin. Is that we just wanted to feed people, like Jesus said to his disciples, "We're feeding 5,000." They're like, "All right, Jesus, they need to go home. They ain't got no food. What are we gonna do?" He says, "You feed them," and that was it.
Wow.
And so that's where we're at.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, Scott, yep, I didn't know you were Carl's coach. That's absolutely, as long as I've known you guys, I didn't know that. That's pretty cool. But yeah, how did it start for you?
Yeah, so uh, almost 21 years ago, my wife and I were landing in the Twin Cities metro in Minneapolis. We were introduced to urban, dense areas that historically had been warehouse or industrial, which now were residential, and just seeing some of the gap. Not even mainline historic churches were present in community. And so that was part of the initial interaction. We actually, uh, again, we wanted to draw a picture of what church could be, where real people that we live next to, that we know, where would they feel comfortable? Where would they feel uh, safe? Where do they feel drawn to? And so we just really started with a blank slate. We started with some environmental things, and so in how people sit instead of shoulder to shoulder, but sitting at tables, and some of the pictures again looked like we actually literally in writing, like it kind of looks like a coffee shop. My wife and I were more coffee shop people than before there were really coffee shop people maybe. There were Starbucks people, I guess, 20 years ago. But uh, and so in this, this is over some time, but some quick iteration of going, this is what it looks like. Even just some of like, again, like, is this, do we serve coffee? Do we give away coffee? Do we try to just kind of dabble in the game? Do we sell it really cheaper than everybody else, all that stuff? And then through, again, wisdom through experience and so on. But we really said, all right, we got to go 100% in being the body of Christ, being the church, and 100% in and being a local, independent, community-focused coffee shop. And so in that, I mean, we planted with saying this over and over and over every time we were together. But for just over a year, we were meeting in a coffee shop that initially on Monday nights, but then on to Sunday nights, and we were saying someday something like this will be ours. And there was and in April, actually the 10th of March, 20 years ago, the owner of the coffee shop we were meeting in said to me, "Hey, you should come. I would like you to come over to the lobby of our condo. We want to meet with you for a minute," which is totally a principal's office moment. And I thought, great, we broke something. This is where are we going to meet next week? Because Rob and Lisa are for sure going to be mad. And they knew obviously clearly who we were. And Rob and Lisa said, "Hey, why are you trying to do this somewhere else? You should buy this coffee shop." And on April 1st, it was a true April Fool's joke. It was less than 20 days. We did from planning vision for over a year to 20 days to be reality. And so it truly proved how much we worked as hard as we could to be ready. And we were absolutely unprepared. And we proved it over and over again. And maybe we're still proving it today. But the small team, small launch, and the crazy of starting a church coupled together with the insanity of starting a business is all probably a bad idea for most, but man, it's beautiful.
That is beautiful.
Yeah, I love it. So let me ask this question for people who are trying to wrap their heads around what it looks like to have a coffee shop with church and grocery stores with church, disciple making at the center core of everything that you're doing, relationships at the center of everything that you're doing. Share with the folks tuning in what like the average week looks like for each of you. Like when we talk about church in your context, you mentioned grocery stores, you mentioned coffee shops. So give people a picture of what the average week of disciple making and serving, the neighborhoods that you're in. What's that look like on like a weekly basis?
Yeah, I would, the simple of it is that we believe God's plan is people. So that like let that be at a foundation. And so on all of we have 5 corner coffees all in Minneapolis, and they are all open Monday through Saturday. Thousands of people in and out every day, cumulatively across them all. And from that, all of our coffee shops are closed on Sundays, and we have corner church service or multiple services in each of our coffee shops on Sunday. There are definitely things that are probably for sure are unique or different because of where we're in the coffee shops, where we do dialogue teaching. We push it up back to the table intentionally in that. But there are church communities. There's bodies of Christ in each of our coffee shops and each of our communities. We really focus hard on our missional calling is to be within walking distance of people in our city. And so we say that constantly is that our dream, the dream that we believe that God placed in our hearts is that we want everybody to be able to walk to church. And so that's the iteration in our name and the reality of who we are and what we're doing. We don't have any parking problems, and we don't really have any parking. And so what it looks like and means for me as a pastor through the week is that about 10% to 15% of my time is into the coffee shop world. We have an incredible coffee shop general manager, assistant general manager, location managers, barista staff, all that stuff. And so if I was over the coffee shops, I wouldn't be doing this right now. It is so much work, and we have an incredible team that is really managing the day-to-day operations of the coffee shop. But also, it's a part of all of our pastors' lives that are on our team is to be part of the coffee shop world. And so it's 10 to 15%. This morning for me, it meant that I was a barista at a teacher appreciation event at a elementary school this morning. And who knows what drain I'll be fixing or refrigerator I'll be checking this afternoon, that kind of a life. But really our focus in all of our communities is to allow our pastors to be the pastors of the community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Scott, right before we started recording, you shared with us how you guys go into some of these schools and you offer, for teacher appreciation, you offer coffee to the entire staff there to just for free to appreciate them back in your own community. And I just thought that was a beautiful picture of a way that you're reaching into the community, taking coffee to the community, but also the gospel to their front door.
Yeah.
And so I just loved that little piece that's part of what you're, probably just a little glimpse of what you guys do on a weekly basis.
Yeah, so much fun.
And then literally running here to be able to be on time.
I biked.
So
I biked.
Okay. You biked. You didn't walk. Okay, we see.
Yeah.
Lots of bike parking, I assume.
Yeah.
Carl, give us a snapshot of what a week looks like with you guys.
Yeah, so we're similar and totally different. We're in a marginalized neighborhood, and so I am I'm a chaplain, crisis prevention. I sit on some city boards, and so my week is filled with meetings Monday through Friday. And also, I come and open up the coffee shop. I'm the opener, and so I open up our coffee shop, grocery store every day at 7 a.m. And so that's when my day starts, and I'm in bed at 9. So I have long days. And so what happens is for me is I get calls or I'm hosting meetings. Like last week, I did a resume building workshop for refugees that were in our community. And so that was about 20 of those that were able to help them look at a U.S. application. I also run a workforce development program out of our business. And so that also means like training people daily on how to make a good espresso, how to do everything coffee related. And then we just started our roasting company. And so we're roasting right now. So that means I'm dropping off fresh new orders all over the city. And still people are having those conversations and meeting with developers who want to start more storehouse groceries and coffee within other parts of the neighborhood in St. Paul, which has been pretty wild. Somebody just asked me to go into 2 more neighborhoods in St. Paul, knowing our motto and who we are. And so I really believe like what we do from a day to day, it has ebbs and flows. Like one day it'll be super slow, and then summer hits in the Twin Cities, and there is no looking back. And our neighborhood is really diverse that we're in. And so there's people from all walks of life, and people like to visit. And so this week this week will be no meetings, but then I'll have community meetings in here as well. I have about 4 community meetings in our space in next week. And so that's just it's not, I can't say there's a typical day. We have like not atypical, but atypical days, multiple of them. And so I think that's the amazing thing about doing it. I was already doing that before the grocery store coffee shop. And so it just melded together as I do it all in one place instead of multiple places. And so I'm like really excited for people to hear like this innovation that doesn't stop them from pastoring.
Yeah.
And so pastoring is what we do on a daily basis. And my Sundays are really packed. And so what that means is I actually go into juvenile justice on Sunday afternoons and preach to kids who have been incarcerated. And so I do that on Sundays as well as preach on Sunday mornings. And we are late mornings too. So our church doesn't start till 11. So our people will not get up at 9 a.m. to come to church because our church is under 40. Everybody's under 40. I'm the oldest person in church sometimes. And so that's just the mantra in which when you reach your new believers, you just got to readjust to that. And so, yeah, that's our atypical lifestyle.
Yeah, I love that, Carl. It's so true that, bringing these worlds together gives way more opportunity to pastor
Yeah.
than I don't think pastors just sit in their office all week. I hope not. But man, our
Yeah.
opportunity to pastor, to be the pastors in our communities, to be the official or unofficial chaplains of our neighborhoods because of what we do it's the best.
Yeah. I was thinking as you guys were talking, I had a conversation last week with a guy who had gone to an exponential conference and really had heard some things for the first time. And so his brother had planted a church, a prevailing model church, and he and the guy I was talking to and his wife have a business, and they do the small groups and that sort of thing for the church, and they're looking at how much time their brother spends raising money and how that always seems to be the focus. And they were like, we have this business, we could start a church without any of those considerations, without any of those constraints. And but he had never like thought he was the only one in the world, that God was maybe prompting him until he connected with exponential. And so I was just thinking with you, when is like, what would your counsel be to him or to others that are thinking in terms of entrepreneurial church planning? Are there things that are there people that this is not a good fit for, or what should they be ready for? What advice would you have for someone that's thinking about that?
I think that's ready for some strong words, but I think a global answer is co-use space. And so whether a church planter is starting a business or co-using space with a neighborhood local business, I think there isn't necessarily a better or worse. I think that operating our coffee shops comes with a lot of stuff. You have to have a lot of systems and structure and team, and we're very thankful to be always working on that. But sometimes there are definitely days where you feel like you're just beyond the ragged edge of sustainability, and then you have other moments you go like, I can't imagine this is. I don't know if we ever say it's so easy, but in the midst of it though is that I do think co-use space is such a need globally where there are so many places, so many businesses that are sitting dormant, and they would give an arm and a leg to have a little bit of rent influx, microscopic, and the space would be ideal to have a human scale or micro or community focused or community sized church,
Yeah.
and a church that would say we don't have to lease or rent a space all the time and so I think it's a global answer. And so I think for this person who's thinking about this and all of their similar people that are around the world, like, can we do this? The way to dabble, low risk dabbling, is to try co-use space with a business that you think that you have affinity towards.
That's
And
good.
you can cheat the system a little bit and see if it is you.
Good. That's good.
Great.
Carl, what advice would you have for?
Oh yeah, I've been waiting to say this. This is my axiom. I like to lead out with an axiom today, and it's just a word of wisdom. Faith multiplies, business scales.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, people get that so messed up in the entrepreneurial church. Systems can scale in any business. That's why coffee works well, because you can't mess up the system of coffee. You can multiply that over. You can scale that. That means like have multiple coffee shops like Scott. Once you get your systems down and your systems are good, you can scale that. Like that's easy. Multiplying thing, not so much. Like that takes generations, and the Bible tells us that it's not going to happen overnight. And so oftentimes when people want to start something, and remember, we're not a franchise owner operator model. We're not Chick-fil-A, right? And so that's oftentimes what people think about when they want to do an entrepreneur church. That this is going to be an owner operator. You take care of everything, and I learn nothing, and it's just simple, no brain capacity is going to happen. And so people often get dismayed at all the hard work that must come into doing this kind of work. And so if I were telling them, you think that your pastor is not going to stop raising money, think about a business. Always raising capital. We have to raise capital 24/7. Like every day I have to have a conversation around like what capital is getting or like what I'm going to spend capital on. And I think my last thing that I would say for my people from the hood, like drug dealers make it really hard for people to think about business. And I'm going to tell you why. Because the drug dealer sells something and it'll double automatically. I'm from the drug dealer world, so I'm going to tell you, that's what they think business is. Business is like, hey, I buy something for $5, I'm going to sell it for 10 and I'm going to make 15. That is not business. Business fluctuates. So like if I sell a $3 cup of coffee, I'm only probably going to make 50 cents off that $3 cup of coffee. It's going to cost me for a while. Then I got labor, then I got insurance, then I got taxes. So that 50 cent goes down to 5 cents real fast.
Yep.
And so that's how business works. You make money incrementally. You don't make money right away. And so like when we start talking about funding and we start talking about like I'm going to help my brother not have to pay rent, business is going to fluctuate in that manner. And God does want us to be in the marketplace. The Bible shows us that. That's where Jesus did all of his ministry, the capitalist. He wants us to be in the marketplace, but the marketplace is not always rich. No. And it doesn't always have an even exchange for your faith and your business. And so you have to learn those. I had to learn those things the hard way, right? Yeah. And so I think where our story comes into fact, where it says, I'm okay with multiplying faith over the next 10 years. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I'm not okay with running my business for the next 10 years. I have to figure out a way out of both of those. And so our motto is worker-owned co-op, where I work my way out of a job, not work my way out of my faith. And so that's one of the things I want to leave with leaders. Don't work your way out of your own faith just to start something. And so
love that
can happen easily.
Carl, I've said for years, if your why in doing a business is just economics, I've said it 100 times. You should do something illegal. You should sell drugs because that's the only way. If it's just about money, do something illegal. Again, that probably is not the best quote to just grab out of context. But it can't be just about money. Oh, Carl, you said that so well because for sure, coffee and groceries, we're the worst models in the world about money.
If I could jump in here for one more question, because one of the things that I see, and I credit Alan Hirsch with this, is the idea that what we believe about Jesus, our Christology, should drive what we believe about mission or missiology. That should drive our ecclesiology or our form of church. And I think too often we start with a form of ecclesiology and try to fit everything else into it. What I see you guys doing this, and just what you said, Scott, but what both of you said, that you're not in this for the money, because you really, there was, in what you understood about Jesus called to mission, and then what's needed to reach people, your ecclesiology formed out of that. Mm-hmm. So the question I have is, what about prevailing, and listen, we're for every expression, God's working through every expression of the church, and we're grateful for everyone. But as you think about the prevailing model of the church, what if somebody who's in more of a prevailing model church wanted to do something like this? If they wanted to say, hey, we want to be more open to our community, we want to have ways to engage our community, do you see, similar kind of opportunities for churches that look more traditional?
I would say yes. Community development and business development are two totally different things, and so they have to define. Like, you can't be a business all the time, but you can be community every day, right? Yeah. And so the one thing that I think big churches should think about is like how they frame their mission around community development. Most of them don't have any pathway to community development. That means like reaching young people, solving social issues in their area, having benevolence funds. Like it takes really a long time for them to develop something like that. And that's where I think the bridge burns in
Mm,
their community. They should start their mission with the community development piece,
it's good.
and then they form their ecclesiology after that. And
Yeah.
just like some Hirshisms, like we've all been inundated with Hirshisms, community development lets you unlearn in the movement journey and then relearn.
Yeah.
And that is the key to being able to be apostolic, right? Is that you are somebody that can unlearn something. And so prevailing models, if they can take a journey of unlearning,
Yeah.
Oh,
that would be monumental in like how they think about community, how they frame around community, and then they relearn like, oh, this is how community thinks about food. This is how community thinks about transportation. This is how community thinks about time, right? So one of the things that people are going to complain about, nobody shows up to church on time,
Yeah.
right? They don't show up to work on time. So what makes you think your church is going to be better than the people that pay them? They pay you. And so I think the unlearning portion around like time gapping, the people are like thinking about time in that framework is one of the first, like, how do you develop people in the midst of that in all of our communities that want to show up to something on time?
Yeah.
FOMO, right?
Yeah.
That's what the fear of missing out on something, right? Like that would be a community development posture in church. Like,
mm,
what are people missing out on a Sunday morning? If you can't communicate that, oh, they're missing out on the offering. Whoa, that's big. You know, the offering happens in the beginning. Well, I'll sleep a little later. He's just talking. He's just doing an offering talk. And so by the time we get there, and the worship starts after that. And so I would try to say, like, what are we doing
Yeah.
that can be unlearned in the midst of the journey? Because it's gonna be a journey, right? A church. Like what we started 9 years ago is not what people see today.
Yeah.
mm,
Yeah, that's really good advice. Don't start with a coffee shop. Start with a listening posture.
yeah.
That idea that you can't teach a person something they think they already know. You've got to take a listening posture. Scott, anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I in partnership with that, if again, in somebody, a ministry team, a church board or whatever, a pastor that's trying to, what could we do? I think removing all the fences to letting your assets be an asset to the community. And so it can be as simple as just offering all of your stuff to let it be used hard by your community. So, I mean, we have the number of auditoriums and meeting rooms and media stuff and video editing and recording equipment and all this stuff that we just have, and kids space and teachings. There's so many assets, and one thing that is often said is that, well, people from our community they haven't been asking to use our stuff. Well, offer it. And if they'd say, well, we don't really want to use your stuff because it's all too churchy or you have too many requirements, remove that stuff. People come into our coffee shops right now through this wall, there's no church stuff. We don't run, you don't have to be a Christian or a follower of Christ to not just participate in our coffee shop. You can come to our coffee shops indefinitely and like in relationship, you'll go, oh, there's some connection to church here. But I meet here with my coworkers and I hang out here with my kids or all that stuff. And there isn't like this church fence. Our culture has a lot of church fences. And so the legacy pastor ministry that has a whole bunch of assets, like remove all the barriers so that your community can use them. And if there is a fear that them using your stuff might wear them out or damage them, work through that.
Yeah,
Work through that.
that's good, Scott. So, but probably over 20 years ago now, I read a book called Don't Rock the Boat, Capsize It. And it was about a church in Hawaii who left their church building completely open, no locks on the doors for the entire
Wow.
community to use however they wanted to at any
Wow.
time, at any point. And I remember over 20 years ago reading that and thinking, that's the most crazy thing. That's the craziest thing I've ever heard. You know, you're just going to leave it all open, but then also realizing like, while we're stewards of those things actually are purchased by the community, for the sake of the good and the gospel of the community. And so,
Yeah.
therefore, it technically does belong to the community. And so, I think that kind of goes hand in hand with what you're saying, Scott, of, you
Yeah.
know, how can we continue to reflect Jesus in the communities that we're serving in, and the communities that we're a part of, that we live
Yeah.
in. Um,
The moment that we just go like we feel like we've nailed it is when somebody goes, I hear there's a church meeting in my coffee shop.
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah.
Winner, winner, coffee shop dinner. Uh,
Yeah.
well, let me ask one more question before we wrap up. If folks want to look into what you guys are doing, like they're like, man, I love hearing about these things. How do I learn more? Can you share? Is there a website? Is there somewhere that they can look to check things out to learn a little bit more about what you guys are doing? Carl, how about you?
It is, I know it's a strange one. It's our FCC.community, and you can reach out to us on that. I've been doing trainings around this for the past like 5 years around community development. Just a quick story of why it works. I did it with one of my friends' churches in Cleveland, Ohio. His church was really stagnant. It was actually like not growing. So we had some just like introductory conversation around disciple making. And I think I've talked to people. I want to tell people like every church expression should start with how you're going to make disciples.
Mhm.
If it talks about how you're going to start on Sunday, then we're going to have a huger problem in the beginning. But how you are going to make disciples should be your very first question, and what that looks like. And when we did a training with them, they were doing some amazing things already. Like they were helping immigrants who were getting wage theft get citizenship. Like they were doing some crazy out of the water things, right? And then so we went in there and just shared like this is the gospel. This is how you share the gospel. This is what the gospel does when you share it in the midst. This is how you be missional. And once we did that, his church grew by like 25%. Then another church in the area that was dying saw that and they said, hey, we want to give you our church building.
Hmm.
And as they gave them the church building, they're like, oh, there need to be another roof. So we're going to give you extra $60,000, not just giving you the church building. We're going to give you some money so you can like operate like ands if no buts. Then after that, a guy came to him and it's like, hey, you're a Latino church, you're growing. I'm this old radio tower that has a radio station. And would you start a Christian radio station in the city? I'm going to give you the tower and it's totally yours. He calls me. He was like, Carl, I don't know what just happened. And I said, the gospel,
Wow.
like releasing what God already had inside of you. And I really believe that's like churches, like sometimes they just need somebody to come alongside them and be a friend and share these things. And so that's what we would say. Like, if you really need help on learning how to make disciples, we want to be there with you and show you what that process is. You really want to say, how will I make disciples in a new expression? We want to be there to help you. And you say, hey, I'm in an urban context. I don't know if this is going to work and that's going to work. We can actually help you get something started. We have done it over and over and over again. And so Faith City Church is not just a standalone. We are a community of people who have started some really wild things all over the United States and globally. And so I think that's also the other thing, because we're talking about church plans in the US, we won't talk about our churches in like the Netherlands and all over, but we want to people to understand that this is the universal truth of God to make disciples. And if I could draw anything home for people who want to be a disruptor, making disciples, be an innovator, making disciples, be an outlier, making disciples. Like that's number one. And I don't care how you make disciples, you just got to make them. And that's the goal of all of this.
That's good.
Yeah. Thank you, Carl. Scott, how about you?
Well, our goal is to give everything away. We don't have any money, but we have over 20 years, we've made every mistake and we're willing to give all of that away. And so you can look, our websites are corner.church and corner.coffee. And but I and our team, we're definitely reachable. And we don't, the thing that we want to defame and explode is that who we are and what we're doing and who Carl is and what he's doing is it's not the founder ethos that made it work. It's not something that is just something that is just in some people's bottle and everybody else doesn't have it. We think that who we are, we're maybe crazy enough to try, but we want to see more and more people doing unique and different things to see the body of Christ really growing in unusual places, which is everywhere. And so again, we're willing to give away all of our mistakes and our answers, and in that I'm reachable. I mean, I can tell you my cell number if you want.
Don't do it, Scott. Don't do it.
We will. I always do, and people do call, but
Yeah.
reachable,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's the goal. Not to make it so that this is your meaning. Whoever hears this is that what your community needs is not me. It's not Carl, and that's what it is. Is you're well placed. Paul said it so well that, we are all so well placed that God has been waiting forever for you to be faithful where you're at with what's under your feet. And so if we can be an encourager or help you to make 1% less mistakes, we're into it.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you guys. And I would say if you're listening and you're in the younger bracket, our under 30 listeners, especially those who are like 18 to 25, I want to specifically encourage you to allow the Holy Spirit to take this conversation and create some disruption in how you think about yourself, your community, church planting, disciple making, because I really genuinely think that things are going to look a bit different as we move forward. And it's going to be because of your generation deciding to take the risk to put disciple making at the forefront and what the community needs to interact with the gospel in the forefront. And out of that will come even more expressions of the church that one day we'll all be asking you how you do it. How did you do it? Why are you doing it? Who are you reaching? What can we learn? And what do we need to change based on what you've learned? And so I just want to encourage you, especially if you're in that age bracket, to just lean into these conversations because the Holy Spirit's at work in you and through you and wants to use you in your community. And wherever you go next, whether you're in college or you're, in the workforce, maybe you're serving at a local church context, God has something more for you. And it just could be entrepreneurial church planting. And so I want to personally thank our friends, Scott and Carl. They are actually friends of ours, friends on mission that both Bill and I would say we love dearly and have the utmost respect for them and who they are as people. And thank you, Bill, my co-host today, for the great conversation. And we were all, before we hit record, wished that we were all together in the Twin Cities with these guys sitting in a coffee shop, one of their coffee shops, having these conversations together, which maybe one day we will do, and we will record it.
Love it.
We will also, on the description of this episode today, we'll have both those websites listed, all three of those websites that were listed, so that for ease of access. So if you didn't catch it and you're trying to rewind, you don't need to. Just look at the notes. We'll put them in there for ease of access so you can reach out to these guys as needed. And thank you so much for joining us for this episode of a 7-part series where we're taking a deeper look into the thriving church of the United States of America. Guys, any last words before we head out?
Thank you, Exponential World. Thanks for being embracing what's new and different, and it really does matter. It really does matter. Yeah. Thank you.
Don't be afraid to pay $7 for a cup of coffee for your independent coffee shop.
And just so you know, it doesn't matter where you are. Baristas are real people. And so love a barista. And if you want to really love them, compliment them and take a picture of the drink they made for you. And just love a barista. It really matters.
Yeah.
Baristas will grow your church.
Come on now. Bill, any last words you want to share?
No, just great to be with you guys. And thank you for God is way more creative in terms of expressions. And thank you for your courage to step into how God is leading you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for
Thank
joining
you.
us.